This is a tutorial on the Shastas on a Starburst. It is based on the basic Starburst design. I just added some white bands to form the petals for it, and a lot of people say they want to do it, so here is the tutorial for it. To make this project, I am using a visual guide I made to remind me of the placement of the bands. I made it so it will match the actual size of the loom, so I will just have to compare what is on the guide with what I am putting on the loom. Just like a typical Starburst, we will start with the perimeter bands. But one main difference is that with the Starburst, you go all the way to the top of the loom. But for this project, you will only go up to the third from the top, because we will only be making 5 stars, because I wanted the flowers to be centered on the bracelet. One other thing to note is that we will be using 2 different color bands for the perimeter. It's not very obvious on the screen, but I am using the lighter green bands for what surrounds the flower, and the dark green band for what corresponds to the stem in the Shasta daisy. So we'll start with the light green band. And then another light green band. And then 3 dark green bands. And then we do another light green band. And then another 3 dark green bands. And another light green band. And then a diagonal light green band. Then we go back to the bottom pin and do it for the other side. And there you have it. Our perimeter bands are in place. Now we will be working on the stars, as in the typical Starburst design. And for this particular design, they will form the centers for the flowers, the daisies that we are making. But as an additional step, we need to place additional diagonal bands on these pins to form a hexagon around the star. This is not in the Starburst design, so you might want to take note of that. We have this hexagon over here that we put in place before we put the star in that particular section. So now with this hexagon in place, let us put our center star. The order in which you place the bands is very important for this design. So we will put our first center band from this pin to this pin over here. That is step number 1. And then going clockwise, we will put the second band from the center pin to this pin over here. And then to this pin over here. And then this pin. And then that pin. And then that pin. So that forms the first star center for this pattern. And then we move to the next star. It will be a dark green star. There will be no hexagon around this star, so we just do the green. Also in the same order. 1 is from here, center pin, to this pin over here. The next one is here, going clockwise. And there you have it. Now, let us work on the second light green hexagon. You put this band over here, and this band over here, and this band over here, and here. So this is the second hexagon we are making for the second star center. And then again, 1 clockwise, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And another set of dark green bands. Again, no hexagon surrounding it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we are on our last light green hexagon. Just one over here and one over here, because we already have the top part. Now for our last star center, you know this by now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You might want to pause the video and check to see if your work is identical to the one on the screen. The next thing we will do is to place capping bands on our centers that will hold them together. And we will be using different colors for this, so you'll have to take note what color we are placing on each center or star. For the flowers, we will be using brown capping bands, and the way to make a capping band is just to twist a rubber band to itself to form a double loop. And then I find it easier to use a hook for this, pointing downwards like this. You stretch it, and then you put it on this center pin over here. Again, you twist it to itself, form a double loop, stretch it, and you put it in the center. Twist, stretch, place. And that is for the flowers. Now for the stars, the dark green stars that will have no flowers on them, we will be using a matching green, dark green capping band. Twist, form a double loop, stretch, and put it in place. Twist, stretch, put it in place. And finally, for this top pin over here, you will use a light green capping band. Twist, form the double loop, stretch, and place it at the top pin. Now pause the video and check to see if you have the same layout. Now we are ready to work on the flowers, and you have to make sure for this part that the loom has the arrows pointing towards you. And something that's unique about this project is that you will be placing bands alternately with looping the bands. For most rainbow loom projects, you place all the bands at one time and then you start your looping. But for this, it will alternate with placing of the bands, or the petals in this case, and then looping, and then placing another set of petals. So let's work on our first flower. You put the outer petals on the pins of the hexagon. Remember the light green hexagon we had before? You just put the petals on those pins. And order, I don't think is important here, as long as you have your white hexagon on top of the other bands. Okay, and it might help to push your bands down. And now we will be placing the inner petals, and this time you will be placing loose bands on the pins of the hexagon. All 6 of them. Okay. It could be annoying sometimes that these loose bands they keep on falling out, but you'll get it. There. You might want to pause the video and check to see if you have the same arrangement. Now let's loop this section. Go ahead and dig for this yellow band, the one that goes from this pin to that pin. So you dig it out and hold on to the rest of the bands, wiggle it out a bit. Over this, it will go over this loose petal, loop it to the center pin. Okay, and then we will go counterclockwise this time. We will dig out this band over here that goes from this pin to this pin, going under the capping band. Dig out this first rubber band, wiggle it out a bit, and then place it to this pin over here, over this loose petal. Do it again for this, wiggle it out a bit, loop it to this pin, over this petal, and then dig for the next rubber band. Be careful not to pull out the rest of the bands. Wiggle it out a bit, put it over this pin and over this white petal over here. Dig, pull it out, wiggle it out a bit, loop. And lastly, dig, pull it out, and